Welcome back, guys. This is Dear Railway episode 3. Thank you so much for tuning in again. And listen, I've had an interesting week, slightly exciting week, I have to say. So, episode 2 of Dear Railway on commuting was released at 6 p.m. last Sunday. I hope you enjoyed it. 12 minutes after that, I was on a Transpennine Express service down to Manchester. And that was planned about an hour before the episode was released. So basically 5 p.m, something happened, I'll explain it. 6 p.m, Dear Railway episode 2 was available. And 6:12 p.m, I was on my way down to Salford, to be precise. So why did I go down to Manchester on such short notice? I received a call from a BBC producer to be on BBC Breakfast on Monday morning and talk about postcards. As you know, I'm a historian of travel, so tourism is one of those themes that are linked to travel, and postcards, are part of this world of tourism. And postcards are coming to an end slightly, but surely, because of social media. Jay Salmon of Sevenoaks, the biggest producer of postcards in the UK and the oldest one, is about to close. So I needed to just talk a bit about that, talk a bit about the history of travel and tourism. So it was a great experience. I was absolutely nervous on that train down, just trying to get ready, trying to do a bit of extra research. But yeah, oh God, I was definitely nervous. And later on that Monday, I also received some calls to appear on radio shows throughout the BBC, so with Barry Stewart on BBC Radio Scotland, and with Paul Franks on BBC West Midlands, and also with Georgie Spanzik on BBC Local Radio England, and they all made my experience amazing. So thank you to all the producers and all the presenters for that opportunity. Right, it's time for us to head back to our own little media. Welcome to Dear Railway episode 3. I'm taking you on a tour of Scotland. For millions of people, trains are a regular reality to face. They can be noisy, smelly, lengthy, stressful, and even boring. For those who aren't familiar with railways, trains are a silly invention for geeks who do not have a driving licence. While there is clearly a mission to make trains attractive again, this podcast is embarking on it. Welcome to Dear Railway.
Platform 14 from the 10:15 Transpennine Express service to Edinburgh. Calling at Manchester Oxford Road, Wigan North Western, Preston, Lancaster, Carlisle, Haymarket and Edinburgh.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Dear Railway, a podcast with quirky stories, useful tips and random facts about trains, railways, but also travel and transport in general. My name is Jordan Gerard and I'm a historian of travel at the University of St Andrews. Well, October is here, so if you're lucky to have had a proper summer, unlike here in Scotland, well, I'm afraid summer is definitely out of the way. So it's time for me to tell you about one of my favourite summer railway travels. Today, I'm giving you my first recommended itinerary. It's a bit of a challenge, but here it goes. Exploring the Scottish Highlands and Islands only by public transport. Well, last week I gave you my most routinesque story about the Scottish railways, my own commute between Edinburgh and St Andrews. I'm now giving you my most memorable one, exploring the Highlands and the Isle of Skye by a variety of modes of transport. Public transport, of course. What I'm going to give you today is a mix between a tour I did with my family in the summer of 2016 and a trip I did with my partner in May 2017 to go to a wedding on the Isle of Skye. Look, I know exploring Scotland is amazing if you have a car, if you rent one, but after a while you end up driving, stopping, parking for a few pictures, and you do that for hours. I've done it, I loved it, but of course, I also like to just sit back, take pictures non-stop from a comfortable train. So here it is. We actually start in England, just in case you're from there, or if you visited London first, and now you wish to head to Scotland. The best way to get there, up to Scotland from England, is on the Caledonian Sleeper. You can buy cheap reclinable seats, or you can go for a comfy bed in a berth. But anyway, the Caledonian Sleeper is a lovely night train between London and lots of parts of Scotland. There are multiple services heading to either Edinburgh, Glasgow, Aberdeen, Inverness or Fort William. And you can hop on from London Euston or at Crewe or Preston. I took the service to Fort William, and you wake up somewhere in the Western Highlands. It's beautiful, it's green, it's grassy, it's probably wet, but all those meadows and hills surround you. It's amazing. By the way, I'll probably do a full podcast on night trains, but sleeping on a train, waking up on it, is an absolutely amazing experience. You wake up with the Caledon Sleeper calls at random stations, including Currow Station. It's the highest in the UK, doesn't have any road access. It was famous in train spotting, where Renton, Spud, Sigboy and Tommy go for an unexpectedly short hike. It's really, really great. There's actually a great hotel and restaurant there as well, where you may stop, spend the night. But in my case, I'm just heading onwards to Fort William, the terminus. It's a small town, but it's a very important one for the West Highlands. It's very outdoorsy. It's at the foot of Ben Nevis, the highest peak in the UK. So it's a great place for hikers, for bikers, for skiers, and the town really caters for that. You have lots of outdoor sports shops. It's really well equipped, and obviously have all you need in terms of hotels, cafes, pubs, and so on. I spend a bit of a few hours there, and then you head on to Mallaig. 2 ways to go to Mallaig on the same railway, on the mighty Western Highlands Railway. You either go on the regional ScotRail train, which is absolutely fine, or you hop on the tourist steam train called the Jacobite. You can't miss it, you will see it, and of course you might know it because it's the famous Hogwarts Express. So the journey to Mallaig takes about an hour and 30 minutes. It crosses the now famous Glenfinnan Viaduct, which is also made famous in the Harry Potter movie. So if you're a Harry Potter fan, I think the combination of being on the Hogwarts Express and crossing that viaduct is just, it's a no-brainer. You should go for it. But make sure that you book early, because I did try to go on that one, but it was already sold out a few weeks in advance. But yeah, so I personally took the regional train, and even on that one, the conductor made an announcement just before we got to cross the viaduct. So even as a normal regional service, there is a tourist attraction, there's a tourist aspect to it. So although you can't see the bridge while you're on it, of course, because you're on it, the view is absolutely awe-inspiring. Mallaig itself is a lovely town. It's a seaside town with fish and chips, with seafood restaurants, some hotels, some hostels. You could actually stay there, but I was on a time budget, if I could say. I was really just trying to do as much as possible. So I personally, once again, had a bit of a lunch there and then moved on. But how do you move on? That's it. There's no more railway. So that's the part of the story where I'm actually not going to talk about trains. In Mallaig, you have lots of boat excursions. So if you want to stay there, you can explore the surrounding islands and everything. It's lovely. But in my case, I took the ferry onwards to the Isle of Skye. So there's a very, very regular service between Mallaig and Armadale. It's very cheap for pedestrians as well. So if you're just taking the train, it won't cost too much. We're talking about a couple of pounds. So you cross the bay, and it takes about half an hour. It's quite a nice sail. And then when you arrive, the Port of Armadale doesn't have that much to offer. I think there's about 2 cafes and a souvenir shop. But you are on the mighty Isle of Skye, which you probably know, and it has become very famous recently. But once on the Isle of Skye, of course, you'll have to rely on buses. There's a very satisfactory bus network in the spring and summer. It's largely operated, for a large majority, it's operated by Stagecoach North Highlands. So have a look on their website to check the timetables. But you should be careful if you're travelling outside of those seasons. I've never done it, and I'm fully aware that it might be slightly harder to, especially from Armadale, because it's in the southeast of the island. It's not on the main axis, so you should plan ahead. But now you're on the Isle of Skye, you can decide to stay in small villages. You might want to stay in slightly bigger towns like Portree or Broadford. It's up to you here. I'm not going to tell you what to do. The Isle of Skye can be done in so many different ways. It's a fantastic place. You should check out vlogs on YouTube or other travel podcasts. The Isle of Skye, you should be seen. You should go visit it once in your life. Of course, it doesn't have any trains, so I'll leave it for someone else to tell you about it. Now, you may have spent a day, 3 days, a week, and it's time for you to leave the island. And how to proceed onwards. Like, let's think about the next leg of the journey now. You must get a bus to Isle of Skye. Isle of Skye is on the mainland, and that's where the railway starts again. So there are regular buses that connect the island to Inverness, Glasgow or Fort William all year round. But we don't want that. We want trains, of course. So you get one of those buses. You can either get it to Isle of Skye, where you will just walk to the train station at that point, just across the Skye Bridge on the mainland, or can get off just before the bridge in a little place called Kyleakin. There's a great mini hike. It takes about an hour. It's got a Gaelic name, and I don't want to offend anyone here. I don't want to sound stupid. So basically, head on the website walkhighlands.co.uk, which is a great website for lots of different routes, different hiking routes, hiking trails. Go on it, look for Kyleakin, and it's a tiny little walk. It's a loop. It takes about an hour, and it starts at the roundabout just outside of Kyleakin towards the Skye Bridge. Get off of Kyleakin, walk to the roundabout. It takes 10 minutes. Then you start your walk, bit of a loop. It goes through the forest. You see lovely views over both the sea and the rest of the island, the mountains and so on. It's great. And then you go back to the roundabout. It is fantastic, awe-inspiring. And then you can walk across the bridge. It's really nice. There's a pedestrian pavement, no worries, into Isle of Skye. That will take you maybe 20 minutes, I think. But it's nice. It breaks down your journey very nicely. You're not just getting the bus to Isle of Skye and then waiting for a train. No, you're getting a bit of a bus to Kyleakin and then going for a nice hike, refreshing hike, crossing the bridge, lovely pictures to be taken, and then enter the mainland at Kyle. While you're in Kyle, you have quite a lot on offer, a bit like Malig, fish and chips and so on. I personally had a lovely fish and chips and a beer at Hector's Bothy. Very nice. So, the next leg of our journey is the train from Kyle to Inverness. It takes 2.5 hours across a beautiful railway. There's actually a little railway museum in Kyle station, and some volunteers sometimes hop on the train to give you leaflets and information. The beginning of that line goes along the water, near lovely villages like Flockton. Once again, I'm just giving you the itinerary here, so you may want to see those places, stay there for a day or more. Keep in mind there aren't that many trains though, so of course, plan ahead. Once you arrive in Inverness, the world is yours again. It's a great city, it's close to nature, you can hop on a tourist excursion to Loch Ness. There's a lot to do there, but you can also take a boat, visit the area, or just enjoy the city itself. And actually, the next leg of your journey is your choice. You can get a regular train down to Edinburgh or Glasgow via the beautiful Main Highland Railway. You can stop in the middle, of course, or you can head east to Aberdeen. You can even head to the very far north of Scotland, to Wick or Thurso. But that's something I might keep for another episode. So this is my itinerary, my recommendation, to see the best of Scotland, all by public transport. Of course, I only gave you the itinerary today. I didn't focus on anything you could see or could do, because it's a really big itinerary. In the next few episodes, I will try to find one small railway where I can give you actual information on where to stop, what to do, and so on. But if you do want to see the Isle of Skye, if you just want to take in everything, this is it. It's a great recommendation, I believe, and I hope you go on it. And this is the spirit of this podcast, trying to put you back on a train and just enjoy yourself. You might want to read, you might want to write, you might want to take pictures, you might want to just learn about the local history. You might want to actually stop everywhere. By the way, we didn't talk about tickets, but you can either obviously book everything in advance and try to get very good deals, or you can get the Spirit of Scotland Rail Pass, which offers unlimited travel for a certain price. I think 4 days unlimited travel over 8 consecutive days is for £139, and then 8 days unlimited travel over 15 consecutive days is for £179. You can check all of that on scotrail.co.uk, and for more about visiting Scotland in general, visit Scotland, which is a great website, and also just check the hashtag unlock Scotland. Scotland has so much more to offer. We'll keep talking about it because that's where I live. I can think of places like Oban that you can reach by train but that are not covered by today's itinerary, so we are not done yet. But what I've offered today